Picture this, it's 1983, and we are exactly 20 minutes away from total global nuclear annihilation. Billions of lives are about to be wiped out in a flash. And the trigger for this impending doomsday, a literal cloud. Yeah, you heard that right, Armageddon, caused by a weather formation. In this explainer, we're unraveling one of the absolute most terrifying history mysteries of the 20th century. We're going to see exactly how humanity's survival rested entirely on the shoulders of one single man who decided to just disobey his most fundamental orders. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, the powder keg. To really grasp the absolute boiling point of September 1983, you've got to put yourself in that extreme hair-trigger paranoia of the Cold War. Just 3 weeks prior, the Soviet Union shot down a commercial passenger jet, Korean Airlines Flight 007. The diplomatic fallout was, well, catastrophic. Soviet leadership was completely on edge. They were absolutely convinced, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that at any given second, the U.S. was going to launch a surprise first nuclear strike. The paranoia was just off the charts. Section 2, 5 missiles inbound. All right, so it's shortly after midnight. We're inside Serpukhov 15, this isolated, highly classified bunker near Moscow, housing Okko, which was the USSR's brand new, multi-million-dollar early warning satellite system. And suddenly, the entire room flashes bright, blinding red. The main computer starts screaming this terrifying warning. One U.S. intercontinental ballistic missile has just been launched and it's heading directly for the Soviet Union. Sitting at the main console is 44-year-old Lieutenant Colonel Stanislav Petrov, and he is just staring at the screen in pure shock. And as Petrov sits there, kind of paralyzed by what this actually means, the sirens start wailing even louder. The system violently updates. A second missile, then a third, a fourth, a fifth. In a matter of agonizing seconds, the computer is telling him that 5 nuclear missiles are screaming across the globe, right toward Moscow. Section 3, the 20-minute gamble. Now, Petrov's job description was pretty brutal, but very simple. Monitor these screens, and if an attack is detected, you notify High Command immediately so they can launch a retaliatory nuclear strike. That's it. And he had less than 20 minutes to make a choice that would literally dictate the survival of billions of people. Just 20 minutes. If he reported the launch, that paranoid Soviet leadership would absolutely press the button. Millions would die instantly, and World War III would officially begin. This impossible ultimatum is staring him right in the face. On one hand, follow military protocol, initiate the counterstrike, and end human civilization. On the other hand, disobey direct orders, declare a false alarm, and risk letting a genuine nuclear attack wipe out your entire country undefended. The red lights are flashing, right? The computer maps are aggressively insisting this attack is 100% real. But against the weight of these multi-million-dollar machines, Petrov makes the unimaginable choice. He trusts his gut. He calls his superiors and reports the whole thing as a computer glitch. So the crucial point is, how did he actually make that monumental call? Well, he based his life-or-death gamble on 2 really solid pieces of logic. First, he reasoned that if the U.S. was actually starting a nuclear war, they wouldn't just send 5 missiles. Come on, they would launch hundreds at once to completely overwhelm Soviet defenses. And second, the Soviet land-based radars, the ones physically looking past the horizon, they were showing absolutely 0 incoming threats. So he held his breath and just waited to see if the ground radar picked anything up. Those incredibly tense 20 minutes slowly ticked by, and the skies, they remained totally clear. The missiles never arrived. Petrov was right. He disobeyed orders, and the world was saved entirely because one man hesitated. Section 4, the sunlight mirage. So the immediate psychological terror in the bunker had passed, but there's still a massive question here. How does a brand new state-of-the-art military system just hallucinate 5 nuclear warheads? And this brilliantly illustrates the bizarre reality of what happened. When scientists dug into it, they realized this wasn't some sophisticated hack or an American spy sabotaging the mainframe. It was a crazy 1-in-a-million trifecta. The satellite, the sun, and a bank of high-altitude clouds above North Dakota had perfectly lined up at a very specific, incredibly rare angle. Basically, the system suffered an infrared glitch. The Okko satellite literally mistook the bright reflection of sunlight glinting off those North Dakotan cloud tops for the fiery infrared heat of rocket engines. That's it. A simple trick of the light completely fooled this brand new technology, created a phantom first strike, and very nearly brought about the apocalypse. Section 5, punished for saving everyone. Now, you'd naturally assume that saving all of humanity from a fiery end would earn you the highest honors, right? Like, give the guy a parade, global recognition, the whole shebang. But instead, Petrov's reward was a heavy reprimand from his superiors. And why? Because he failed to fill out his logbooks correctly during those 20 minutes of sheer apocalyptic chaos. Literally, while deciding the fate of the Earth, they punished him because his paperwork was messy. And the injustice didn't even stop there. The Soviet government was deeply embarrassed by this monumental technological failure, so they completely covered up the incident to hide the flaw in their fancy new system. The immense stress of the event and the fallout led Petrov to suffer a nervous breakdown. He took early retirement and ended up living out his life in poverty in a small Russian apartment. He remained entirely unknown to the world, just this forgotten savior, until the secret files detailing that terrifying night were finally unsealed in 1998. The terrifying fragility of our existence was completely laid bare that night in 1983. Our continued survival relied entirely on one man's willingness to defy the very system he was sworn to serve. So I'm going to leave you with this haunting question to think about. If you were sitting in that chair, staring at flashing red lights telling you the end of the world was here, would you have the courage to trust your gut over the machines?